Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. As you can see, I'm in a different location. My wife is kind of sick today. She's got a cough and everything since yesterday. Tested negative for COVID, so on and so on. She's upstairs in the finished attic in our finished bedroom up there. Not the bedroom I record in, but another one. And, she's not feeling good. I figured I'd record down here somewhere, and I can't really get comfortable when I review things when I'm sitting on the couch that I used to review on. So I was like, I'll try something else. And I figured I'd try right here in front of my bookshelves. Of course, I have my Goosebumps stuff, a lot of my things like Twilight Zone stuff, and Dragon Ball Z over here and all that. That's mostly behind it, but you know what I mean. A lot of movies that I love. As you can tell, I'm a collector. Now, I had a very distinct video I wanted to make. Of course, my channel is horror-focused, thriller-focused as well, but mainly horror stuff, slasher stuff, ghost stories, all that kind of thing, as you guys know. And you don't really get a whole lot of announcements for big things, and I don't really follow, like, individual directors. I just kind of follow what's a new series or a new sequel to a series coming out this year. And of course, this year we have quite a few of those. I don't think you know all of them that are coming out this year. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you're a big follower of the horror subgenre, well, I guess it's a genre, and then subgenres inside of it. Regardless, if you happen to be a fan of that kind of thing, you might know about a lot of these. There were some that I only recently found out about in the last couple of days, and I thought I would go ahead and, kind of just make my personal list of my top 5 anticipated horror films for 2023. Now, with that being said, I have 5. And one of them is one in my very bottom spot, at my number 5, that I'm a little worried about, frankly, after what I recently bought and rewatched for the first time since it came out. It's not a Halloween sequel, but I think you know what I mean. David Gordon Green's The Exorcist is number 5 on my list. Of course, this is going to be a direct sequel, very much like he did with 2018's Halloween film. It's going to ignore everything, supposedly, and go right back to being a sequel to, I think the original came out in 78, I believe, maybe 79. It's supposed to be directly tied into that. Now, if you do remember, or if you don't, because I haven't seen the show, but I heard people talking about it, it blew my mind that they actually did this. There was an Exorcist TV show around 2016, 2018, somewhere in there, maybe a little bit later, 2019, I don't know. I haven't watched it. It's on like Hulu or Shudder or something. I see it all the time. I just haven't gotten to it. I think it's on Hulu, though. Basically, what happened, they had Linda Blair's character from that original show, or the original movie, be an adult in this new show, like be the mom of the new girl that was possessed, or the new kid that was possessed, whatever it was, something like that. And that's not a big spoiler. Apparently, I think that was revealed in like the first episode, something like that, so, go into it if you haven't seen it. I've heard good things, really good things about that show, and I do want to check it out at some point, God willing, but I'll get there when I get there. But this new movie, I don't know if this is a real poster on IMDb, but there's a poster advertising this film. I don't think it's real, of the old crab staircase scene, as you know. There was a scene cut from the original version of The Exorcist for theaters. From what I remember hearing, it was cut. And it's basically Regan, that's the name. God, it just popped in my head as soon as I talked about the crab walk. She basically walks down the stairs backwards, and it's a little goofy looking if you see the video now, but it's also kind of scary. When I was younger and I saw that clip on YouTube for the first time, really creeped me out. But anyway, there's a poster on IMDb. That doesn't always matter, but there's a poster on there that seems to be the advertisement for the film that has that kind of thing going for it. It looks like fan art to me, though. Like an IMDb user made that with AI art or something and decided to put it on there. And I have a feeling that's all it is. But I'm a little worried, frankly, about this film after what happened with the reputation of Halloween after Kills came out, which I really liked Kills. I don't care what anybody says. I really, really like that flick. It ain't perfect, but I like it. Halloween Ends came out, as I just held up to you. And I watched the behind-the-scenes things on that when the DVD Blu-ray set there came out. I waited a while for the price to go down. It finally got down to like 20 bucks. I bought it a couple of weeks ago. And when I bought it, I watched the behind-the-scenes stuff, as I said. And a lot of it seemed like David Gordon Green and Jamie Lee Curtis, and you've heard reports of this too, I think there's footage of it online too, of them telling the cast and crew, this is a very different film, it's gonna piss all of the fans off. They did this deliberately. And you could argue for creativity amongst a director and his peers and whatever. You can argue that all you want until you're blue in the face. My argument back to you is they deliberately made a movie that was not like the franchise at all. A lot of people want to say that they like it. I almost feel like it's like a captivity thing. What is it called again when people are held captive and they begin to like it? That's kind of what it feels like, for me, in my opinion. Now, mind you, I don't hate Halloween Ends. I hate what it did to the franchise. I hate it being an entry in the franchise, and I feel like back in the day I would have felt that way about Halloween 3, even though Halloween 3 is a really, really good, great, if you will, flick. Might be the best of the entire franchise for that matter, or at least one of them. I think it's like my number 2 spot on my ranking video that I did a while back in October last year, before Halloween Ends even came out. Well, no, I think it would have been after Halloween Ends. Anyway, I think I ranked them after that. Anyway, Halloween Ends is something that it's very controversial because of the choices made. And to me, when I went back and rewatched it recently, it just seems like the story, even if its own context is considered to be a standalone film, if we all look at it that way, it still has this bad writing mentality. Not just with the dialogue, but with the story logic, I think. It doesn't make sense. There's too many things that try to be vague that then I'm hearing that the novelization that I also picked up recently too, when I do my big haul video, I'll bring that up and show it to you as well. But I'm hearing that in the novelization for Halloween Ends, it's also basically said that, like, Michael is for sure, like, passing along his evil, you know? The film hits at that a lot, but it's not fair because Kills reference that Michael might be, like, immortal or whatever, or some kind of, a dude that can take punishment and be stabbed a bunch and shot a bunch and be okay. Not even grunt over it a lot of the time. But Kills the 2018 film was actually advertised as, you know, Michael is a regular old guy now. He had fingers blown off and stuff. Ends and Kills go in the supernatural route. And I think it's unfair. I really do. I think it's unfair to the fans who were told over and over again that Halloween 2018 was for sure, definitively, Michael is mortal. You know, he can be killed. It raised the stakes for everybody, even the character of the slasher that we all love. And I think Ends is a dangerous thing. But anyway, getting back to Exorcist after so long of rambling, my mustache itches. Sorry, guys. Exorcist could be good. I think David Gordon Green's a very talented man. I think Halloween Ends in the visual department is beautiful looking. I really do. I like that 80s aesthetic to it. But I believe The Exorcist is taking place now. I could be wrong, nothing's really known about the script, but I believe it's taking place now in 2023. And if that's the case, that's so strange to have a movie that's like a sequel to a movie from like 50 years ago that's doing the same thing Halloween 2018 did of just being called like The Exorcist, you know, for the title. It just feels like a bad situation. I feel like there's already a deal out there signed for a trilogy, and it probably is. It's probably been announced and everything, and I don't even know it. But, I'm looking forward to it to hopefully have something that could reinvent the haunted house possession stories that are plaguing movies, because nothing has been really great recently for any of us to watch. But that being said, though, The Exorcist is my number 5 pick of the most anticipated top 5 horror films for me this year. Number 4 is one that I didn't even know was coming out until about a few days ago. I have a feeling it'll get delayed. If it's actually coming out, I would like that, but it might get delayed, so just don't get your hopes up. Supposedly there is a new, I don't think it's a remake, but it's like a new film based on the real-life killings or whatever, of The Strangers. Yes, there was The Strangers from like 2008, which I love. I think it's a great movie. And then there was Prey at Night, like 10 years later, like 2018, 2019, I think it came out. And Prey at Night I was not a fan of. I liked, again, that kind of 80s aesthetic it had. I think there was a little bit of like a synthwave music to it. Not a whole lot, but a little bit enough to bring up, I would say. But overall, I'm not in love with Prey at Night at all. I don't even really consider it like a 3 out of 5 rating for me. It's just, it's so hokey. It's so lame. It has some cool moments with the whole trailer park thing, but it's just kind of dull. It was a really dull movie, and it really didn't need to exist. Neither does this film. But I have to admit, Prey at Night, I was excited over because of my nostalgia and love for the original movie that I love deeply. I have my collection copy somewhere around here from like Hollywood Video or Blockbuster. I don't know where I got my copy from. It's one of them, but it's written on there, like my Terminator Salvation DVD from, I think it was Hollywood Video. But I love The Strangers. Prey at Night's really whack, in my opinion. But I hope this is good. I really hope this is a good one that can bring something cool to the franchise. But again, they have to basically reboot, like start all over because of the end of Prey at Night and the way things went there. So, I don't know. We don't have a trailer yet. We don't really have much yet, but apparently it is coming out this year. And I hope it's good. I really do. I shout out to whoever's making this. I hope it's good. My number 3 pick is actually coming out next month, Scream 6. And I have a lot of thoughts about that movie. I'm going to make a video about my thoughts about what I want in it, probably after this video. But I want a lot for that particular movie. And I think it's going to offer a lot. I actually think Scream 5 is my second favorite of the franchise. Of course, number 1 being the original movie, which I think is fantastic. But Scream 6 looks really cool. And I love the things that were set up with the Carpenter sisters in Part 5. I hate the fact that it's called Scream 6 after Part 1 is called just Scream, not Scream 5. So now we have Scream, Scream 2, Scream 3, Scream 4, Scream, Scream 6. What the fuck? So no one seems to give a shit about that but me. But not that I wanted to go the subtitle route either. I think Scream having the subtitle of just, or not even subtitle, just Scream 1, 2, 3 being numbered like that, for me personally, I actually prefer that for movies. It's a little goofy, a little hokey, you know, but I still like that. I like that a lot. It reminds me of the olden days of movies like Friday the 13th, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4, the final chapter, whatever. I like that. And, anyway, you can't change my mind. I hope Scream 6 is good. Of course, it's going to take place in, like, I think New York City. And there's the trailer that came out that had, like, the subway tunnel and, like, the secret cult that Gale Weathers knows about. Of course, Courtney Cox is coming back. Neve Campbell is not. And I'm not really a fan of Neve Campbell, whatever the fuck her name is. She makes the films for a lot of people. It's one of those legacy things that I don't understand. I don't really like Sidney Prescott that much. I like her in the original film. I think she's in a really tragic situation. And I think 4 does something cool with her, but not really the things surrounding her. But, you know, 5 I liked her in. I don't see any reason to keep focusing on her. And I think Part 5, having the Carpenter sisters, with Jenna Ortega being part of the series too, I much prefer them to pretty much anybody from these movies. I mean, I like Dewey, I like Gale, even though Gale's kind of a piece of shit sometimes. Sidney is so one note, and so is Neve Campbell. There's a reason Neve Campbell is not, like, massively known nowadays outside of Scream. There's a reason for that. There's a reason that she's not, like, an Oscar winner or anything. Not that that really matters, but still, there's a reason that people don't obsess over Neve Campbell the way they do, like, Courtney Cox, who I think has a lot of different talents when it comes to singing, when it comes to acting, when it comes to her comedic ability versus serious note stuff. Courtney Cox can pull that off. The Neve Campbell, the whole money thing sounds like bullshit to me. I really think it's not what people are making it out to be. I think there's something else happening there, in my opinion. I don't think she's going to secretly pop in for a cameo thing. I think she's pissed because she was having the spotlight taken off of her. I think she was okay with it in Part 5, to an extent, with a movie that was being basically a sequel to Part 4 that hadn't been around for like 10 years. That's what I think happened here. I'm not a fan of Neve Campbell, like I said, so I could give less of a shit that she's not going to be in this film. I kind of hope she doesn't show up at all in it, or isn't even referenced, in my opinion. The Gale Weathers thing, though, I'm glad Gale is back. I'm glad Courtney Cox is coming back, and I like that we're getting a new setting that's New York City. It's not a fucking theater. It's not the original town they're from, Woodsboro or whatever it was. I think it's Woodsboro. Part 1 and 4 was involved with that. I think Part 5 had a little bit to do with that as well, or a surrounding city or something. And Part 3, of course, was taking place in Hollywood, and I like Part 3 more than Part 2. As you guys know, it's a very controversial opinion. People were not happy with my Scream 3 review. I got flanked with thumbs downs on that particular review, if I remember correctly. Maybe not now, but at the time I did. And I got trashed over that. I can't help it. I fucking hate theater kids. I took theater for like 2 years. Theater kids are awful. And I was not one of those types either. I hated that group of kids I took that class with. And I liked theater as a class. It's just the class I had were pieces of shit. And I think everybody who's been involved in theater and all, they all feel that way. But anyway, that's my tangent again about theaters. Scream 6 I'm hopeful for. I thought it was cool in that subway scene in the trailer with the different, like, you know, horror icons. You had the Freddy glove, you had, like, the Jason hockey mask reference, you had the Pinhead mask, like an actual Pinhead mask, I think, in it. that was really cool. I loved all of that. I'm looking forward to this. I think Scream 6 could be a really good flick. And yeah, it's my number 3 pick. I'm really stoked for this movie. I'm really looking forward to this next month. I don't think I'm going to rewatch all of the films. I think I'm going to rewatch 1 and probably 5. And that's really it. Just to remember everything that happened in Part 5, because I really enjoyed that. Aside from the bullshit ending message that if you haven't seen the film, this is kind of a spoiler, this toxic fandom bullshit. For the love of God, stop blaming the fucking audience for Hollywood's poor-ass decisions and putting politics and everything. It's their fucking fault. They started that shit. They started the culture war. They pissed people off. You know, it's just what it is. But even aside from that, I'm looking forward to this. I hope that Scream 6 kind of gets away from the killer has to have a motive that's movie-themed or modern-day culturally themed. Please don't do that shit with Scream 6. Scream 5 did not have a good example. I could have taken just a regular old whodunit. I want motivation, but I want something that's a little bit not so political or socially anything. I just want them to, like, hate somebody's guts or something, you know? And I don't want the killer to be Neve Campbell either. I would love to see Stu come back. I don't know how he would, but I would love to see that. Oh well. Anyway, a lot of us thought he would come back for Part 5. He did not. My number 2 pick, my number 1 and 2 picks for this year were so hard. And there are other movies out there, by the way, that I do want to see, like Infinity Pool, which I heard was very controversial for a lot of reasons. There are newer movies coming out that I just can't make it to the theaters to see recently, like Megan. And Megan's got like an extended release too. People really dig that movie. And I can't tell if it's like a Skinamarink type of thing, like people really love it for some bullshit reason. I'm seeing weird things online about the Megan movie. Nothing spoiler-wise. Surprisingly, I've only seen like one spoiler for that film. But nothing major. It was the death of a kid or something in that film. But I'm really excited for a lot of things that are announced that are supposedly coming out this year. But I've been looking forward to my number 2 pick for like maybe 2 or 3 years. I've been waiting around for this for quite a while. We haven't had another one of these. Insidious 5. Insidious 5, I am so stoked for. I don't think I've talked about this enough, but I'm a massive fan of Insidious 1 through 4. I love all of them. Part 2 is probably the weakest for me, but Part 1, and then Part 3, and then Part 4, I think are all great. 2 is extremely well made. Of course, James Wan was still involved. Leigh Whannell kind of took over for 3 and 4. And I think Leigh Whannell is writing Part 5. I could be wrong about that. But Patrick Wilson's actually going to direct this. I think it's his first ever movie he's directed. And I'm excited for that. Patrick Wilson, of course, was the dad in Part 1 and Part 2. I think he had moments in Part 3 and 4, like a little reference or like a hint of him or something like that. I love Patrick Wilson. I think he's very talented. Very good actor as well. He's in a lot of shit recently, like Aquaman. Oh, Aquaman was so fucking bad. I'm a DC guy. And I was not a fan of Aquaman at all. But I'm going to tell you, Insidious 5, I can't remember the title they're going with right now. I don't know if it's true or not, but there is a supposed title to Part 5. That one, it's not the best title, but I mean, the last film was called, like, The Last Key or The Lost Key. I think it was The Last Key. But I think these films are consistently fantastic and consistently scary, too. I like how they tie together. Sometimes they don't have to, but they typically try to do something like that. And I really love it. And I really respect it, too. I wish there were more movies like Insidious, and I wish there were more people going to see the Insidious films. They really have a lot going for them. And I've seen the first film probably... God, I've been watching that since like middle school or high school. It's been a long time since it came out, but I think it was high school, like a 2009 or something like that. I remember I went to West Virginia to see some family for a family, basically a get-together type of thing. A reunion is what I'm trying to say. It was the first time I've ever been to my family reunion in West Virginia on my dad's side. And so when I was on the way out there, I actually had a very small iPod at the time. And I wanted something to watch and something to read. I think the first time I ever went, I was reading this yellow book right here. It's Jonathan Mayberry's Ghost Road Blues. Phenomenal book. Phenomenal trilogy. There's that, Dead Man's Song, and then Bad Moon Rising. Fantastic trilogy. Friggin' fantastic. Love those books. But I was reading Ghost Road Blues while I was going down there the first time, I think. And I wanted a movie to watch. And I bought Insidious digitally. It's the first ever film I think I ever bought digitally. I've rented a couple of things by that time, like... maybe Die Hard 2 or Die Hard 4, I think, something like that, and Taking a Pelham 123, which glitched out on me, and I lost gift cards I got for Christmas because of that bullshit. Fuck you, Apple. But I went on the way down there, and I watched Insidious like twice on the trip over there. I think it's like a 4-hour drive. I watched it twice on the way over there, and I absolutely love that film. I mean, I had already seen it like 6 times by the time this particular trip happened and we were traveling to West Virginia. I watched that movie over and over again, and I loved it deeply. But part 2, I saw like 1.5 times. The first time I tried to watch it, I was sick and I fell asleep like halfway through, because it's kind of a slow burn movie. It does a little bit something different than the rest of the series, mainly part 1, that was all that existed at the time. But then I watched it a full time all the way through and was very impressed. I still like it, but it's not my favorite. It's probably the weakest of all of them for me. But then 3, I've seen part 3, God, I've seen it probably at least 5 times, 4 times, something like that over the years since it came out. I love that movie. It makes you genuinely want to cry watching it. It's extremely well made. Leigh Whannell, he just gets better and better. Everything he writes and directs, he just gets better and better at what he does. I don't care if it's The Invisible Man, or if it's, the Insidious 4 and 3. Anything he does, I will support this guy. It's fantastic. I never saw the one film he did that's like a guy that's like brainwashed or programmed or something. I remember a really brutal fist fight that I saw online because of that movie, or from that movie. And that's all I remember. But I haven't seen that movie. Is it any good? If you know what movie I'm talking about, I can't remember the title of it. But if you have known it, or if you happen to know it, please put it down below if it's any good or not. I think it was like a Scanner or something. I don't know what it was called. Or Manhunt? I don't know. Anyway, my number 1 pick for my list is something that I am so excited about because I'm such a massive fan of these. These are actually lined up right here. Everything from the 2 video games that were made for it back on Xbox 360 to my many collections of this. I actually have another collection of the DVDs and Blu-rays in another room, Steelbooks, all of that. I'm a massive fan of James Wan and Leigh Whannell's first series, Saw. I love Saw. Many of you guys know that. You've heard me say it over and over again, which means this year, God willing I'm alive, I will get to see Saw X or Saw 10, whatever it's going to be called. It probably is going to have a subtitle of some sort. Now, I'm a little hung up about how I feel about this. Tobin Bell's coming back, which I'm really excited for. That's official. That's great. We've seen set photos so far of that. We know this is coming in October. And I'm really excited because I love Saw. I've said this over and over again. I'm a massive Saw fan. I know those damn movies inside and out. I love them. Now, we had the first, 7 movies. And the final chapter we all thought was going to be like the final one. And it came out in 3D. It was fucking trash. Everybody hated it. It's very cheap, but it's grown on me over the years. I like it more and more the older I get. And I get it more and more the older I get. It still looks and feels cheap. It still has a lot of loose ends that I do not think are satisfying. They were trying to set up for sequels that were never going to happen. And that's kind of a shame with the title, the final chapter. But it's not a horrible loss of a film. I do like it. And like I said, the older I get, the more I like that movie. But then we got Jigsaw, which is part 8. And I like Jigsaw a lot. I actually love Jigsaw quite a bit. I think the twists towards the end of it are freaking fantastic. Kind of repetitive with the killer tie-in guy that works with Tobin Bell we'd never heard of before. A lot of people weren't into that. I liked it, but a lot of people weren't into that. I liked it, though. There's a little bit of CGI stuff. It's a little bit in the future. So, you had lasers and shit. You saw, autopsies with lasers, which is not out of the equation now, but it seemed to be clearly a little bit further ahead in our reality. A couple of years down the road, maybe 2, 3, something like that. But laser beams in Saw, it seemed like a little bit much. I'm used to, rusty equipment that chops your fucking leg off if you choose for it to do so. Otherwise, you die a horrible, grisly death from another rusted mechanical object. And then we had Spiral. And Chris Rock really was, the big push for Spiral. Did he direct it? I think he directed it, or he wrote it, or something. No, he wrote it, I believe. He was part of the writing process. He had, the story concept and everything. And, one of the guys, I think it was the guy who did part 3, 4, and 5, I believe. I can't remember his name. Is it Darren Lynn Bousman? I think his name is. I believe that's the name. Anyway, he directed a lot of the Saw films. He was very involved with the series. He came in and I believe directed that particular movie, if I'm thinking correctly. And personally, I really liked Spiral. I think the twist in it about who was actually doing the killings as a copycat killer, it's not great, but the things that they set up by the end of the film, having Sam Jackson there, having him get brutalized at the end of the movie, doing the things they did with that particular film, I think could have been killing. I've just made a killing in the sequel if they had made a Spiral 2, which was rumored. Supposedly they were going to go ahead and make a trilogy, or two, or something like that. Not two trilogies, but like at least a duology. And I think with the things they set up in Spiral and the ending of it, I really would have liked that. The ending is a little bit illogical with some of the things that happen in Spiral, but I really would have loved to have seen another one, because I'm a big Saw fan. I don't care what I get from Saw. I love the first video game. I haven't played part 2 all the way, but like what I played of that was kind of shitty. But part 1 was fantastic of the video games. I'm a big Saw guy. I love Saw. Point is, my number 1 pick is Saw 10. I hope it's great. I can't wait for it to come out. I'm so excited for this film. And when it was announced like 2 months ago that they were going to make this, I can't even tell you how thrilled I was. I'm so fucking pumped for Saw 10. But anyway, with that being said, at some point this year, I do want to delve into reviewing them. I also want to review the Friday the 13th films during the summertime. I kind of want to get to some other things like Sleepaway Camp. I don't think it's going to happen this year. But I mainly am going to focus on, the Saw movies towards the end of the year. Not during October, of course, I saved that for a lot of other things I watch, but the months leading to that, like September, like August, I kind of want to focus on the Saw franchise and really, really kind of hit into that because I'm really stoked about that. Anyway, with that being said, that's all I have to tell you. My top 5 anticipated horror movies for 2023. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say down in the comment section down below about what your top 5s are, or your top 10. It doesn't have to be strictly horror, but if it is, let me know all that down below too. If you have multiple lists, I'd love to hear all that too. I am super thrilled to see what's going to happen with this year in horror. There were so many things that could go super well and super, super wrong. There are many things I'm worried about in these 5 picks, but I'm also excited. I really am. I can't wait. Anyway, what are your top 5 or whatever for the year of anything when it comes to movies and Hollywood and whatever? As much as I hate Hollywood, I am excited and will be pretty stoked for all of these films. Let me know down in the comment section down below what you guys think. Anyway, with all that being said, thank you for watching, guys. God bless you. Hopefully you'll tune in for some more content here soon. I'm going to try to get one more video recorded before I go to bed, but it's already well, if my phone would turn on, it's like 6:30 right now. I might try to get one more video recorded, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. Let me know what you think about this new setup, too. I had to kind of do it for this, but I don't think it's going to be consistently because I usually film during the day. It's so loud outside, there's no way I could film during the daytime in here like I've tried in the past because of how much noise there is. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. God bless you all. Have a good one. Goodbye.